you, Mark Weissman, on the huge Retro Rangers organ, following in the esteemed musical footsteps of Gladys Gooding and Eddie Layton. And if you were old enough to remember Gladys Gooding and Eddie Layton playing the Ranger Victory song at Madison Square Garden, you're in the right place, because this is the Retro Rangers podcast. All right, I'm your host, George Grimm, and I'm here with my AARP line mates, Rich Isaac and Mark Weissman, and we welcome back our good friend and former Ranger intern, Steve Choppy, and we are going to pay tribute to the great Sam Rosen this evening. So, how are you guys doing?
Very good, George.
Doing well, thank you.
Great.
Good. Everybody settling in now?
Yep, ready to talk about Sam.
Okay. All right, before we get started, let's do a little Ranger broadcast history. Before Sam came along, they had at least 6 guys doing TV play-by-play from the 1950s on. There was Win Elliott and Bob Wolf. There was a guy named Norm Jarry, who was the first guy who was born in Canada. Emil Francis brought him in because he wanted a Canadian feel to the broadcast. Norm Jarry later on went on to be a long-term mayor of Guelph, Ontario. And we had Jim Gordon, of course, and we had Tim Ryan, and we had Sal Marciano. And Jim Gordon once said that the first hockey game he ever called was the first hockey game he ever saw. So that's quite a feat. So, all right, so let's see what everybody thinks about MSG's tribute to Sam on the Garden Ice last week. Mark, why don't you start us off?
Well, I mean, the first thing that jumps out is the fact that both Espo and JD were there. I thought that was a great gesture on their part, great gesture on MSG's part. When you think about both of them kind of left the Rangers unceremoniously, and so I thought it was very cool because they must have just said, hey, this is all about Sam, not about us or what happened, and both came back, and I thought that was just great. And all those interviews they showed with Sam and JD on the golf course, they were great. Some of the stories we probably heard, but there were some new things. I would say the only thing that I would have liked to have seen, like, since the 94 guys were there, I would have liked to see them kind of on the ice with him. That's about the only thing that popped into my head while I was watching. I just thought that would have been a nice touch. And truthfully, I kind of thought they might raise a banner for him. I really was counting on that. Especially when they showed the signed jersey. I thought that was like a tip-off, that they were going to do that. So, I mean, I know there's still a chance they might do it at the end of the year or something, but I feel like I know that Buffalo did it for their play-by-play guy, and I think that's really cool. And I think it still would be a really good gesture when, if and when they ever do it. Kind of thing.
Mark, in all fairness on that, when Buffalo did Rick Jenrette, it was the season after he retired.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
I believe so.
Okay, that's good to know. That gives a little more hope. I didn't realize that.
No, and Jim Dolan, it's another special event day.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people are still clamoring, like, for Brad Park's number to go up there. I know Larry Brooks has written about that a few times. So,
I'm one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. There's a lot of pending worthiness there, but, Sam was 40 years just with the Rangers. There's no reason not to do it. When you think of it that way, you can't really rationalize not doing it, in my opinion. So hopefully, to your point, maybe they just, do it, after he's done.
Right. Okay. Rich?
I mean, it was a nice event. I mean, on some level, it was a little underwhelming.
Yeah, I thought so too, yeah.
You know, it was nice. It was Sam and his wife, and as Mark noted, JD and Phil Esposito and Joe Micheletti, and you know, I was expecting them to give him maybe a couple more gifts. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think the signed jersey is nice. I think the gold microphone is nice, but I don't know. What we don't know is what Sam wanted.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah,
and he's getting 72 bottles of wine from everyone in the league. So maybe they took that into account. I don't know. I mean, think about it. I don't remember us acknowledging other announcers like as much as he's getting announced elsewhere. I think that's amazing. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's happened, and I just can't remember. But I mean, for him to go into San Jose and some of these more obscure, non-rival arenas, and do half the people even know who he is? You know, that, I don't know. I think that's just amazing the way every team is doing something, you know, in the water. I think it's great.
Well, as you pointed out, you know, it's his longevity with the team. Right. So he's got long-term relationships with those organizations too, as the visiting broadcasters.
That's true.
And from everything we've heard and read about him is he's always been very giving to visiting announcers when they come to New York of his time, etc. So it's not surprising. I've seen a few that have been fated like that. I mean, Rick Jenrette in Buffalo, and of course, Bob Cole in Canada, Hockey Night in Canada, his final year, and he wasn't even working full time everywhere he went. But again, he was the voice on the national broadcast.
Right.
Did the Islanders ever honor Jiggs McDonald? Do you know?
I don't know.
I honestly don't know.
Or Philadelphia honor Gene Hart?
Gene Hart?
Absolutely.
You know? Because they were...
Philadelphia definitely honored Gene Hart. Pittsburgh definitely honored Mike Lang, who recently passed away.
Yeah, I remember that. I definitely remember that.
And Dallas did something for Dave Strader.
Okay.
Of course, Dave Strader was ill at the time. That's why he effectively retired.
What about LA's broadcaster?
So on.
Wasn't LA's broadcaster? Didn't they do something for him?
I think they did something for him as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe they honored Gene Hart by letting her daughter sing the anthem.
Well, that's
there's nothing wrong with
let's not fool ourselves, Mark. It's how she got the job.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with nepotism as long as you keep it in the family.
Right, exactly.
All right, Steve Choppy, what's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Hi, just for the record, guys, I'm seeing that January 11, 2017, the Islanders honored Jiggs with a pregame ceremony before a game with the Panthers in Barclays Center. So there you go. I didn't know. Okay. I wouldn't have known it. I would not have known it. What I thought about it, I completely agree with all you guys, and specifically the underwhelmingness of it. I just expected more of a show, more of a glitzy kind of. Someone had pointed out, one of you fellows, I can't remember, at least I think it was from this pool, that why might it have more, would have been nicer if it was at center ice versus the corner. I thought about it. There's really no access to center ice except for the players' dressing room doors now. They don't have that center tunnel anymore. Right? Yeah. So I guess they had to do it in the corner where it was get all the stuff in there and in and out, fairly quickly. I'm imagining it.
When they did Hanks, everything was down at that end.
Okay. Fair to remember that. And then they could have decorated it a little better. I mean, the big Ranger emblems were very nice, very cool, very appealing, powerful. But I think we needed a little more down around there. If you're going to put people there, put more decorations around there. So I think, given what the Garden can do and has done, and has pretty much set the bar for a lot of that stuff, I think they may have dropped the ball in the production a little bit in the building. They could have done a little better.
Right. Yeah.
Plus, when you think about it, they actually announced that they were doing something, weeks in advance. Right? I mean, if something, the way they ended up doing it could have been something they could say, oh, next Wednesday we'll be honoring Sam Rosen.
By the way,
they gave us like a month's heads up, which is why, we had a month to kind of conjure in our minds what they could possibly be doing.
Yeah.
So I think, they almost misled people by saying, if they're going to give that much notice, it should be, not maybe exactly what they did for Hank, but, something of that magnitude or, that kind of thing. I mean, I don't know. I agree with you guys. I didn't think about that until just now.
Well, it's kind of short as far as I'm concerned. Even Sam made mention he only had a couple of minutes to thank everybody, which is about all the complaints you're ever going to get out of Sam about anything. And I think Dolan was forced to invite JD back, but he didn't have to let him speak. So that's why, but as you said, it was short and sweet. If Peggy Lee was still alive, she'd be singing "Is That All There Is?" And as far as the banner, I would, I thought they were going to raise a banner. I was waiting for it, and when they closed up shop, I went and saw it. I said, "Is that it? That's all?"
Yeah.
So, well, but
I think he actually had the quote. I mean, to me, the most memorable quote was when he said, I've been trying to will this team into the playoffs, but they're not listening. Which I thought, and he does, that's the kind of, I thought that was funny. I mean, obviously, there's truth behind it, but I mean, I think for him to kind of make a joke of that, I thought that was cool because he doesn't, he doesn't really do that, and he would be all sort of, kind of like when Connor McDonald comes out, it's always sort of inspiring, regardless of how the team's playing. You guys are going to bring, you know what I mean? It's sort of like it doesn't, he doesn't necessarily make light if the team isn't, challenging for anything. And I just thought that was cool because that's very much, Sam's like, hey, he's not going to ignore the fact that they're playing. He covered but he put a nice little, it's almost like a positive, humorous spin on it, which I thought
kind of blended everything together. The disaster season got to find some kind of a cherry to put on top, and I think he did well with that. I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
The off-ice team, John Ginone and those guys, the interviews were very interesting that they had with Sam and JD.
Absolutely. Those were great.
That was
great. I agree. Those were great. I mean, it's just those guys. You can tell they're just so close and good friends. And the families are close. That's just never going to go. I mean, that's what makes it so frustrating about the way JD was let go. I mean, to me, regardless of whether he was going to be a good GM or a good president, it's like he bled blue. It's like if there's certain players when they become, like Yzerman leading Detroit or whatever. Like there's certain guys you feel like, you know what, they're going to find a way because it's like their life to them. It's not just a job. And that's why I was so excited when he got hired. I actually met him outside the embassy just a few months after he got hired. And he was like, so glad to be back in New York and this is where I belong. And it wasn't like stale or like a whatever they call it, like just saying the right things. I mean, you could tell he really wanted to be here. And it's just the way it was abruptly. It's a shame on so many levels.
And when he got fired, I actually thought that Sam was going to leave because Sam seemed to be pretty upset, and I thought Sam was going to leave then, but he didn't. I guess he realized that he still had some time left. So
right, good point.
I think one thing to remember about the brevity of the ceremony is it was also a national broadcast that day.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, good point.
Right? I think the game was also broadcast on ESPN. It definitely was covered nationally. So that may have had something to do with it, too.
Now, here's the irony of that. I agree with you, Rich, but the irony of that is, one, a national broadcast, if MSG did something that only MSG can do, that would have been, nationwide. They would have blown the doors off, not just locally. So they missed that opportunity. And plus, how many national games end up starting 20 after the stupid hour? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a 7 o'clock game, and it doesn't start till 20 after or so. I mean, that's happened a lot in recent years. So
Yeah.
I agree. That's probably the logic that they use, but I could see there's been exceptions to that. That would have given them a great opportunity to it would have been this great PR thing where they could have, this is how we treat our employees and long-term employees and great corporation. I mean, there could have been a lot of sort of good PR for MSG, not just the Rangers. So I think they kind of.
I know, but Mark, my point is they may not have had control over that.
That's true. You're right. Good point.
Because, for example, this afternoon, the UConn Penn State quarterfinal NCAA game was supposed to be on ESPN too. Well, it was, they didn't broadcast it because the NCAA women's softball game went long. So it was only available online.
Okay.
I mean, this is typical ESPN,
Yeah,
the worldwide leader in sports that doesn't broadcast sports very well.
I know. It's almost a shame too bad it wasn't like a TNT broadcast. That would have been.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Anyway.
All right. So let's share some memories about Sam. Who wants to go first? Don't fight, guys.
Why don't you go first, George?
Yeah.
Well,
it's your show.
Well, actually,
exactly.
I have all the same memories that we all have about all the calls and everything, and we were going to try to get the calls on the opening of the show, but Mark and I had trouble with it the other night, so we're actually going to put a compilation of clips adjacent to this on Facebook that you can listen to this and then you can look and listen to the clips. But as far as the broadcasting field has really changed over the years. Now, first of all, it's all see and say. What you see with your eyes, you got to make it come out of your mouth quickly and without hesitation, and it's got to be right. And when in I guess 1994, when Sam came in, there were 21 teams and approximately maybe 500 players to keep track of. Now there's 32 teams and approximately 700 players to keep track of, 750 maybe. Back then, there were uniform numbers only really went up to maybe the mid 30s, and now they're all over the place. Now they're all over the place. Back then, most of the players' names were common and they rolled off the tongue very easily. Now we've got players with the alphabet soup names, and that have to be worked on. You gotta make sure you say them right. And there's also more travel. I mean, when in 1994 there was a team in Hartford. Now that team's in Carolina, and we've got two more teams in Florida. We've got Nashville. We've got two more teams in California. We have Utah. We have Seattle.
Vegas.
All this Las Vegas, all this extra travel, and that's got to be stressful for these guys, And I think the game has really gotten faster over the years too. I mean, back in '84, I think it was a little slower, maybe a little bit easier to follow and to call. But now it's just a fast game, and you have to keep up with it. And so I give Sam a lot of credit for being able to keep up with it for 40 years, and God bless him. So.
Yeah, really good points, Rich. I mean, George, those are really good. And when you were talking, it sounded. Remember, you hear about like coaches, like a coach that's been around for a while. You're like, look at all the different evolution of the game and how they've modified how they coach. I mean, it's similar to broadcasting, like you just said. I mean, the game gets faster. Penalties change, rules change. I mean, there was no trapezoid when he started.
Yeah.
Right? Think about all the rules that delay of game has gone back and forth to be automatic, and then judgment, and then automatic. To keep track of all that. I think you're right. I think that's. I hadn't really thought of I thought of each of those sometimes individually, but never as like one big adjustment that announcers have to do. So.
Yeah, it happened, over time. It didn't happen, in one season.
Right.
It happened over time, but still, it's something that he had to keep up with it. And, all this time, too, he was getting older, So Sam was born in 1947, so what is he, 77 years old now?
Right.
So, he's older than me. And that's all.
And social media wasn't around. Now he's got. He's not really active on social media. Not that I want him to be, but maybe he feels like he's missing out. How many times does stuff come up? Bill Pito makes a reference or Valakent makes a reference, and he's like, I don't really know what these guys are talking about because I'm not watching. It's not like just JD on the satellite, and I'll just get a satellite dish myself, and then I can do what he does. It's like there's a lot more to keep track of.
Yeah.
I think Steve might be able to talk to this, but they have a statistician with them, and these guys do a ton of prep for each broadcast. I think. Go ahead, Steve.
No, please.
Well, Steve has an interesting tale from his days as an intern. He worked in the broadcast booth for one game, and he has got a pretty interesting story. Anyway, Steve.
Yeah, it's a great segue. Thanks. Rich set it up, and then George took it off the tee. It was really interesting. So Sam showed up. 82, 83 is when I was there. Sam was in the building at 82. He was actually that's when he was hired by Madison Square Garden in 82. He didn't get on the air in front of the camera in the broadcast booth as the regular play-by-play guy until like 86. But he was the in-studio host for that. From 82 to like that, and occasionally they'd throw him in there to cover if Jim Gordon wasn't going to be around or whatever. I remember occasionally Sam popping into the booth, into the behind the mic and doing that as well. So he was around. We knew him well. I knew him well. First name basis and everything like that. Very very much the gentleman that you saw on you see on television. That's what you're getting with him. He's not fake. That's what the guy is really like, which is very commendable. And he's also extremely ready to put it out there and help out whenever needed be. Like for instance, this one night they usually put a statistician, as you had mentioned, in the booth with either. In the TV booth in between the two broadcasters, sitting at the table as they normally stood to do the games, but you're sitting there because you have to do some writing. And the same thing also happened down in the radio booth with Marv and Sal Messina. They always needed like a spotter, statistician, whatever you want to call them. So it was great, but they needed one this one night. And Janet Halligan in the PR office had asked me, did they need somebody up there to do the stats on television? Would you like to do it? It paid like $50, and in 82, $50 was a nice little chunk of change. So, especially for a kid. So, yeah, I'm doing it. I'll go up there. I'm not going to never say no. Anybody has to do anything in that building, I never said no. So, of course I'm gonna. So now this is early the day of the game, and I'm thinking about it all day, and I'm like, and I remembered, or it came to mind that I do have a mental block, and I had it then, still have it now. I do not process hockey time, elapsed time, as quickly as 99% of the hockey people out there. I still, stumble through my head with the quick calculations. 15 minutes on the clock means whatever happened at 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm always amazed that guys can do that. I know.
I still can't. I can't. I still can't. I gave up.
Sam does, and Sam does that. It'd be like 1472 or whatever, 32, and he's like, I'm like, how did you do the clock math so fast in your head? I'm always amazed.
And I was very glad for his speed too, because this day I'm trying to figure out how am I going to do this. I'm going to write down notes on index cards and slide them to these guys, but they need it instantaneously because they have to make the announcement over the air as they're putting up the stats on the screen. So and so penalty at 1847 for tripping. I have to listen and pick all that up off of the loudspeaker. No, I didn't even wear a headset. I had to pick it up off of Carl Martin, who was the PA announcer back then. I had to listen to what he said, but I had to have the time down before anything. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this instantaneously? I'm all day long. My palms are sweating. My heart rate is up. I'm nervous. Oh my God, my big chance to do this thing. I'm going to stumble on it. So I started to put a chart together. For myself, for quick reference, left side of the chart would have been time on the clock. Right side of the chart, of course, would have been its conversion. Right. And I couldn't get it. We had so much to do on game days that I just didn't have time to finish it. So I was like, I'm going to wing it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I got to go up there and do it. Now I go up to the booth, and so it's. It is Jim and Jim Gordon and Phil Esposito and Sam, because he'd been around, part of the crew, but not really in front of the camera all that much. He was hanging out up in the booth with us. So we were chatting it up a little bit. He was just standing off to the side. Was he waiting to do in between back then? Perhaps, I just don't remember. But he was up there, and I was telling him my situation, how I'm a little bit, I'm a little concerned about it. He said, patted me on the shoulder and said, no problem, Steve, I've got you. He goes, you need anything? Look at me, I'll tell you exactly what you need. So I was like, you can't. I still remember the weight that came off my shoulders and the stress level just getting cut by 90% that was flowing through my body at that time, because I know I had Sam not to back me up, but I figured he said he was going to do it. I'm relying on him for all of it. So I just, rather than try to do it and fumble it and panic and look at him and gesture, non-verbally, make some kind of a sign. So he just fed me the time. Each and every time something happened that needed hockey time, Sam had it on an index card to me. I jotted down the other the other logistics, who penalty was on whom, for what, etc. And I slid it over to Jim and Phil. But Sam saved my rear end that night, big time. And he was so nice and so sweet about it. Like I've said, he was as sweet about it as you'd see him on television. That's no act. And I'll forever remember him for that, for saving my goose, that's for sure.
That's great.
Good story.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been very easy, somebody in that, even though he wasn't necessarily in front of the camera, he was still a professional and obviously had more experience than you, and he could have been like, well, you need to get me this, and he could have been just completely the opposite and put even more pressure on you than you already had. You know what I mean? He not only didn't do that, but he actually made you feel more relaxed or more.
It was
great.
Wonderful. It just underscored, like you talked about these guys being close. There is a team. Feeling with those guys. And of course, this intern from the PR office coming up to the booth, they all knew me, so it wasn't like I was a stranger, but they still welcomed you, and made me feel at ease. And again, Sam just, he saved, I probably would have passed out from nervousness if Sam wasn't there. But it was a victory all the way around. So I was pleased.
What about you guys? What about Rich and Mark? Any stories? Any memories?
Go ahead, Rich.
Well, the obvious one is his call when the Rangers won the Cup in '94. But in my case, because I live out of the New York metro market now and have for many years, I didn't hear his call until I saw the Stanley Cup videotape, Road to Victory, after everything was done, because my Stanley Cup final broadcast was Gary Thorne on ESPN.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Canada guys. I thought you were going to say that.
No, it was the ESPN broadcast.
Oh, okay.
So, I have other little memories here and there of Sam. I have more memories of Sam and JD and then Sam and Joe since I got the satellite dish and have had the NHL Center Ice package.
Right.
Because that allowed me to just have the MSG feed 98% of the time.
Right.
No. I mean, Sam seems like a real genuine guy. I mean, I have a little experience with television from when I was in college and working at a station on the engineering side. So I appreciate Steve's story about Sam. What most people don't realize is all the stuff that goes on off the air. And in fact, George, to your point, think of, you said how the broadcasts have changed over time. Yeah. Think of all the extra promos they have to slip in during the broadcast today.
Oh, yeah.
And all the advanced stats that are available. It's almost too much. It's almost as if they rely on them too much.
Yeah.
Right.
And the play-by-play, until things really heat up, is almost secondary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Agreed.
So, no. It's Sam's longevity and ability to adapt that I appreciate the most.
Yeah.
And of course, his famous call, it's a power play goal.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss it.
That was pretty cool that they had
the
clip that his first one was a Russellanian goal. Like, they actually had the first time he did that. I thought that was neat. I mean, that's something I would never know or even be able to guess when they first do that. It's funny you mentioned, like, go ahead, sorry, Richard, go ahead and finish.
No, it's okay. I saw someone mention online, I don't remember who it was, that what the Rangers should do from now on at home games.
Yes, Howie Rose, I think.
I think Howie, you're right. I think it was Howie Rose suggested they play a recording of in the arena of Sam saying it's a power play goal.
Mm-hmm. Right after the goal song.
After they score a power play goal.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah,
I don't believe anyone else has done it. New York is where you're going to do it. Jump right on it. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool idea. But I was thinking back, like my earliest memory of Sam. Well, you said it's mostly Sam and JD, of course. Like, it's funny. My earliest memory the only real memory I have of Sam and Espo is I can't remember I think it was '86. You know, when they went to the the semifinal against Montreal, when Espo said, you Ranger fans, I applaud you. You know, you stick by this team. He goes, I have two rings from Boston, but I wish I had one from New York after one. Like, he actually put down his rings that he had with Boston. I just thought that was cool. And Sam was, you could see the look on his face. He's like, never thought, he would ever say that. But, as far as actual calls, the only other member, we've already talked about, the montage we're going to show has, the Panarin call and Mika's fifth goal and all that. But you guys probably remember, to me, his most outspoken call was in 90, I think it was, when 2 seconds left, Vukota and Baumgartner went after Bloomberg, and he called Vukota a jerk on the air. For Sam to say something like that. He made Redford. He was on Hank's podcast. I watched that one. And he didn't say specifically, but he was talking about that. He goes, one time I cursed at a player or something. He's like, it's the only time he just lost it. He's like, look at that jerk Vukota. And I was like, oh my God. And he just got, well, he never really did it again. He just felt like, a little too emotional. But not that he was wrong. I agree with him at that moment. But, it was he never did anything close to that, after that. But they got JD and, JD went after Al Arbor for doing that. The two of them got caught up in that, that sort of unhinged moment. But anyway.
Well, he was proving that he was human, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and they were
And again, that was before social media. Imagine he does that now, and you're being too impartial. It would be like a, it would be like a free for all, either for or against. It would just be this huge viral thing. But now it's like, unless you watched it when it happened, there's not too much of a memory of that.
Well, if you guys recall, Sam started off as a Rangers fan, yeah? JD wasn't too far removed from his playing days, and I don't think he had too many fond memories of the Islanders.
Right, exactly.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
so that probably had something to do with it. So, the difficulty of going from being a fan or a player of a team and then having to be as impartial as humanly possible during broadcasts. Even more important when these guys who do broadcasts work national games.
That's right. Yeah. It's a good point that you saw with Hank. I mean, for the first 6 months when Hank was doing it, he kept saying, we, and he's like, I got to stop doing that. And, it's hard. I mean, he was actually on the team, which is even harder, I would think, than being a fan of the team. But, but after a while, you're right. You just start to realize you have to at least portray an objective sense, but also understand that most of the audience are Ranger fans too. You can't be too objective because that annoys me sometimes. It's like, you don't need to praise Crosby that much. It's like, you know what I mean? If I want to hear that much, I'll watch the Penguin broadcast. It's just, I understand that, or McDavid, or all these. I mean, they're great players, but so I think
just watch the hockey night. Just watch the Hockey Night in Canada broadcast, Mark. They praise him just as much too.
I'm sure they do, and I'm not saying they're not worthy of it. I just don't want to hear it. There's a difference. I'm not saying they're not right. I'm just saying seriously. It's like, they don't. It's just because you're right doesn't mean it's what people want to hear. You have to remember your audience, kind of thing. So I think but that's hard because people, I think more criticism is if you're too much of a homer, then broadcasters get more bashed for that than too much objectivity. I think that's, so I understand that's why they do that. But anyway.
Well, there's a reason that the Bruins broadcasts have been voted last or next to last in the Athletics annual rating of NHL broadcasts.
Really? Oh.
They may have improved this year since Jack Edwards retired, but
right, still, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Jim Gordon to me was more of a I don't know. There's something about the way when he broadcast, I felt like, if it was like one of us was in the booth, he would just, it's just a little. It's very different. I mean, he was a professional. He didn't lose it or anything, but just, So I actually liked his style in that sense, as it being, but Sam's a phenomenal broadcaster, Hall of Fame worthy, and all that. I mean, there's no denying that. Now we're down to like the nitty gritty of different things, and you're right. I don't listen to that many other broadcasts, so I don't even know. Other than maybe I used to listen to Jigs every once in a while, or Mike Emmerich and those guys. And to me, those guys blow the doors off of those guys. As good as they were, I think. So that always helped keep things in perspective, when you listen to other broadcasts.
Well, again,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to ask, has Sam ever done radio fill-in? I don't seem to remember. I don't think so. Right?
Yeah. Well, he did. He just did recently. He did for the final for the run last year. I think he did radio, didn't he?
He did. Okay.
Yes, he was doing radio last year.
Oh, okay.
Sam broadcasts radio during the Stanley Cup for Westwood One for the NHL broadcast.
See, I'm so used to him on the tube. I don't think of him elsewhere. I don't remember him ever being on radio. I remember him being on the radio for the Giant games way back when, the New York Giants. But
of course. And it's funny. I remember like with Jim Gordon and Bill Chadwick, sometimes they would do radio. Like not every away game was on Channel 9, so some of the games were on NEW, and they would do play by, and like. It's very different, they have to, in the left circle, at the left blue line, they have to tell you they can't assume you can see what's going on. So it was very, it was much, compared to like you're used to that with Marv Albert because he would always do that. But when you hear a TV announcer suddenly saying twice as much as they usually say, it was like weird. I remember that. And then Sam would do the same thing. If he had to do radio, you can't just say who it is or what they're doing, but where are they, and and more time on the clock things and things like that. So I always thought that was really interesting. It's very different.
Yeah, you have to be far more descriptive on the radio.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Marv Albert. One of my earliest recollections of Marv Albert doing Rangers broadcast is, as the pace of the game picked up, the cadence of his call sped up too.
Exactly. And the thing that I noticed too, I remember sometimes you put Marv on when you're watching TV, if it wasn't our game or whatever, and I realized how often he was actually like behind the play. But he would catch up. Like he would never miss a goal. But he'd be saying stuff, and I'm like, the puck's already in the zone. He's still talking about what's going on at center ice, and But if you're not watching, you don't know. But then he would be like, and this, boom, and it's a goal. And it would be like you say, like a crescendo to the net.
Yeah.
And that's tough to do. It's like you have to be on top of things. But you have the luxury when you're a radio. If you're off and we can't see it, then we have to just kind of trust what you're saying.
So very often when the Rangers play the Bruins, because I'm in the Bruins home market, live in the Bruins home market, I would mute the TV and grab the Rangers radio feed online.
Right.
And I'd use the DVR to delay the video feed.
Yes.
To sync them up.
Yeah, exactly.
And even with that, just as you described, Mark, the radio feed, very often they're catching up to what happened.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Out of necessity.
Right. Well, like you said, you have to be more descriptive. If you're more descriptive, it's going to take you longer to tell what's going on, and then something else has already happened. So you're, it's like a double-edged sword. You can't try to keep up and say less because we're like, well, where's the puck? We don't know where you are, So it's a totally different talent. And I even when I met Kenny Albert, I was asking him about those questions about he was telling the story like they used to use an egg timer. When to how often they should tell you how much time is left, and then when the egg timer ran out, that's when you say, 16 minutes on the clock. Just these old school ways of keeping the audience informed. I thought that was
sure old school tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The information about Sam online, I was reading it the other day, and Sam actually called college baseball when he was in college. Can you imagine Sam calling a baseball game? Going from a fast-paced game like hockey to a baseball game. I mean, I just can't see him calling a baseball game because it's so slow.
Well, I think if anything, I think it's harder to go the other way. Like when you call a baseball, I think Kenny even mentioned this too. Like you have to have more anecdotes. There's much more downtime, so it's not really play-by-play. It's 10 seconds of play, and the rest is just, spaghetti recipes and like risotto used to do and all that, right? So you have to have all those nuggets, So I think it makes it hard. I could see, and Sam and Joe, I think, do that sometimes too much on hockey broadcasts.
Yes.
Like plays going on, and they're telling me about, the guy from Minnesota. So that's. So I think it's harder the other. I think if you went to the other way, then that's where you have to do more research, talk about, Vinny and JT Miller had, dinner last night and those kinds of things. I mean, those just become more of the broadcast because you have the time,
Yeah. You have any?
Well, I know.
No.
I know. Sam had said that one of the reasons he decided he wanted to be a broadcaster was he was a Yankee fan and he just loved listening to Mel Allen.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He did say that,
Yeah.
And it's funny because until he decided to retire, I never knew he played college baseball or that he was, that good, really, where it wasn't like, I'm going to go into announcing because that's what I'm going to do. I mean, it sounded like, he was maybe in his mind, like, it wasn't worth pursuing, but it wasn't like a complete, out of the question thing that he was that good, as a college baseball player. So I never heard that really until all of this, started to come out.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any thoughts about who might replace Sam?
I hope Kenny Albert, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, Steve.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I'm hoping Kenny Albert does, but I don't know. I think, you know, just like the day of the ceremony for Sam, who took over? John Giannone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he's done play-by-play. He did play-by-play back with Mike Spino, if you remember him.
Yes.
You know, there was a time where he was doing a lot of games. So he's certainly capable of it. It's just a question of whether, you know, is that what we want versus who can do it, kind of thing. I mean, all these guys are capable of doing it, you know what I mean? But yeah, my first choice would be Kenny too. So I agree with you there. So.
The question is because Kenny has so many other national obligations, because he still does football for Fox. He's on the national broadcast for TNT. He does the Olympics. Would MSG Network allow that? And then if he comes over to TV, who replaces him on radio? Don LaGreca, I would assume.
Yeah, I would think so.
Because Don LaGreca is the guy who fills in for him when he's unavailable.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, we could want Kenny Albert. I mean, I think Kenny Albert would be kind of cool, only from the Ranger family point of view. It would come full circle, especially for me, because when I started listening to paying attention to the Rangers, Marv and Bill Chadwick were on the radio. So from that point of view, it would come kind of like full circle. But you're right, in terms of more common sense or whatever you want to call it, would probably dictate that it would not be Kenny. And yeah, I mean, Gino's there. He's already in the fold. He's part of the rotation, so to speak. So more than likely be him. I wouldn't mind. He knows what he's doing, like you guys have said. I wouldn't mind him. I just prefer Kenny because I'm selfish.
No offense to John Giannone. Kenny's a much better play-by-play man.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he does. Exactly.
And I think my guess is John Giannone would tell you that too.
Well, likely, I'd have to agree. I could see it.
But with all due respect, with the way James Dolan does business, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. All right, one more question about 94, when they had the parade. If you guys recall, JD and Sam was stuck in the MSU studios, and then the police came to whisk them into the parade, and a big deal was made about that. Do you think that was a setup, or do you think it really happened that way?
I think it really happened that way.
Okay.
I don't think it was a setup because as I said, I've seen the film/video footage of them when the police come in, and they look shocked. Neither one of them are good enough actors.
Exactly.
That was real. And they both said many times in interviews that they were really ticked off that they had to be in the studio.
It would be, yeah.
I mean, I'm still bothered by that. That still bothers me because they didn't get to be in the parade. I mean, I know you brought them down for the ceremony, but Mike and the Mad Dog were on a freaking float, and Chris is the only one who's really a hockey fan. No, really. And here's guys talk about and talk about and these guys were there for 10. I don't know, at that point was it 10 years, I guess. And they're not even in the parade, and the other guy that still bothers me a lot, And then, in a way, it's almost, and the fact that they could do what they did it's like, well, if you can bring them to the ceremony, just let them do the parade. Like, what is this half stuff? It's like it almost would have been more logical, like that they didn't get there to go there at all. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would still be upset, but you know what I mean? But it's almost like taunting, like, oh yeah, we'll let you go, but it'll be when it's done. You know, it's like the whole thrill of it was the snow and the parade. I mean, come on. Can you imagine if the players just went to City Hall and didn't have the parade? That's basically what they did to the announcers. You know, and it's like that's all. You know, we call it the parade. We don't call it. It was the City Hall ceremony. You know,
sure.
So that still really bogs me. You know, and every time it gets brought up, I think it's like a little dig at MSG. Like, why would they really screwed over their own announcers by doing that? That just, you know, I don't know, not fair at all.
They did was expedient for their coverage.
Right. But I mean, why couldn't they could have had Bruce Beck and Al Trautwig in the studio and the two of them in the parade and done. Why didn't they have, you know what I mean? You know, that's all. That would have been one way. I mean, there's probably other way, but that's, come on. I mean, that was just, I don't know what it was like.
Well,
you know,
I think the problem is today they could easily have had him in the parade and they could have covered it.
Oh,
because
of course.
Because the technology has evolved
right.
so much.
Right.
But back then, because of the height of the buildings, let's remember how remotes were done back then.
Well, I'm not talking about them doing a remote. I'm just talking about them participating in the parade and have other people do the parade.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. Just making sure that was clear.
No, I understand what you're saying. And all I'm saying is today they could have covered it from the
from the parade. Exactly.
From within the parade.
Yes, exactly. That would have been even cooler. You're right. That's a good point.
But
they would have had the old Janet Jackson microphones around their head, you know, wireless mics, you know, it would have been awesome. You're right. Exactly.
Okay. Got anybody have anything else? Did you want to contribute?
I'm good.
I just think you can't say enough about what a fabulous career he had. You know, Sam was like true blue in every way. You know, got to broadcast the Stanley Cup. I mean, can you imagine if he didn't get to do that? I mean, worked 40. You know, at least he got one. You know, and some good runs. You know, 20 foot. And we didn't really mention. Most people know. You know, that was the last broadcast where the local announcers did the Cup. Can you imagine since then all these other people have to hear, you know, if you're not a Ranger fan, you have to hear Kenny Albert do whoever, Dallas Stars Cup or something, you know, that kind of thing. It can't have the same feeling. I mean, we got to hear our own announcers call our own, you know, there is a call that exists, right, Rich? That you can hear, whereas, you know what I mean? You didn't hear it at the moment, but I think we're very blessed to have that happen, and plus it was two Hall of Famers on top of that. It wasn't just Joe announcers. So I think that's just very happy for him and his family, and just he did.
As a fan, I'm glad he's going out on his own terms, and I'm just thankful that we had it for 40 years.
Exactly.
Right. That's right. We had the best of you. Yep.
We really did. Yeah.
So there was one thing that I'm disappointed in is that Mark doesn't have a picture with Sam. Mark got his.
I know.
We never got a selfie with Sam. And
honestly, it's funny because that's happened to me a few times where I just forget.
Oh my God!
And with him, you know the story. You know, he was apologizing. I was like, I couldn't believe he was apologizing to me. I'm like, so I was like. He walked away. I'm like, oh my God, Sam Rosen just apologized. And then he came back and did it again, and I was like, so my head was anywhere near of just. I almost didn't get his autograph. I almost forgot like why I was standing there. I'm like, this guy's apologizing to me. Like, do your job. Like, I can't imagine just the way it was. It was really unbelievable. I've never had somebody of that magnitude, say sorry, I was late. I'm like, you had work to do. It was amazing. So yeah, someday. I mean, he's still gonna be around. I still have faith. He'll be around. I'm sure. The funny thing is, I've gotten all those autographs because I'm trying to get Hank's autograph, and he's the only one I don't have. It's like I've got all of his colleagues now at MSG Network, just about. And that's not even the reason I was out there. And now, so he's on my list as well. To hopefully, meet up with Henrik.
Vet has a woman working in his office whose brother knows Hank, and I'm trying like hell to get him, put me in touch with him somehow, but it's just not happening. So.
Well, just a little bit off the subject. Michelle Gingras, is very active on Instagram. She and I sometimes message each other, and she did this thing where a day in the life of Michelle Gingras. I don't know if you saw it. I think it's older than I just saw it the other day, but I think it's from a while ago. And she comes in, Bill Pito's teasing her about she's sitting at this not even a cube, it's like a desk, And then she goes into this boardroom meeting, and there's Hank and Valley, and she's sitting next to them, that's her job to be in a meeting with these guys. I'm like, it's just you show up to work, and those are your colleagues. It's just unbelievable.
Some people have all the luck, huh?
I'm like, I don't know how you do. I'd be so how do you get over that? How do you? It's like working with Academy Award winners. It's like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm amazed.
Oh, completely. I mean, many people will say, I'm not starstruck. That's what I was trying to convince people of way back when, too. But you know something? Every second I was in that building, every second I was anywhere near any one of those guys, I had a tingling. I was just it was a very cool feeling. But of course I had to, maintain the professional approach as well. But deep down, I was giddy as a 5-year-old.
It's tougher because you spend half your energy trying to not be like, oh my god. You're actually, whereas if you just go to a job without that, you can focus all your energy on the job. Here you're constantly suppressing all this desire of wanting to be like, oh my god, look who it is.
Yeah.
Forever the fan. Forever the fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It is something that you have to get used to. When I was writing the Emil Francis book, I was talking to all these players I grew up with, and I'm on the phone with them, and I'm asking them questions and they're answering, and I'm in my mind I'm saying, this is Brad Park. I'm talking about
I know.
This is Emil Francis. So it's just something you gotta get used to it and get through it,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
All right, so let's wrap this up. I want to remind everybody that after you're done listening here, you should click on the adjacent package of video clips that were compiled by our video archivist, Mark Wiseman, about all of Sam's famous calls from his first power play goal with Rayo Rosalena to 1994 and beyond. There's a lot of old familiar names in there, and you probably recognize a lot of them. And thank you guys for being on. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on Sam, and thank you everyone for listening. And we will be back soon. This has been the Retro Rangers podcast, and I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.